Well, it's up and running. Let's see who shows up. I have a really, really good video ready to go. I'm gonna do a video breakdown. We're gonna do it live, like Radical style. Like I've only watched it kind of like a little bit through. We're gonna go through it, and it kind of hits on the stuff we talked about today. So we'll see what goes on. Yeah, we got at least one person here. I see that weird shadow hasn't gone away from earlier. What do we got here? Probably K-Far. This is what they call vamping. Believe it or not, I used to be a musician, and I used to do like stuff on like with on stage performers and stuff, and we do this thing called a vamp, where you just kind of wait around. You wait around to see who shows up, and they left. So I had one person, and they're gone now. That's good. So I'll talk to myself. I can ask myself questions, or I can go on a rant about something. This is a good time for a rant. So a long time ago, the Ukraine war, when it got started in February 2022, I used to like show it, like footage of it, to high school students when I was teaching, and like they never really understood why I was doing it. And what I was trying to get them to do was understand the fact that history is history. I mean, and I was teaching them history, so I was showing them history. If you show people things, they learn faster, they learn better, they learn more information. And I thought that was important. I thought it was important to show people history. I thought it was important to give them a visual perspective on. Sorry, this hat has a weird. I wore this hat on deployment for a long time, so it's kind of like screwed up. So forgive that. But yeah, I thought it was better to show history in action as it happened. That way you don't have to go back and teach it. Like you don't have to teach a World War II veteran about World War II. They know about it. They were there. You don't have to teach me about the global war on terrorism. I was there. I was in that sucker. Hey, Josh. Yes, I'm back. And it's just you and me right now. Um, I have a really great video breakdown. I put the link in the description below. And it plays off of what we did earlier today with talking about like history repeating itself and trench warfare and stuff like that. Because here we are, 21st century, and we just got trench warfare. But since you're the only one here, I'll let you take the steering wheel. What do you want me to talk about? Tell me something. Consider this like stream training, stream hosting 101 for me, not you. Weapon system conflict. Yeah, putting you on the spot. But hey, look, it's just you and me. There's nobody else here. This is like the smallest segment of the internet that you can possibly find. So there you go. This is talk to me more about the A10. Oh, well, A10. So uh, should probably figure out a way to put that into like the description of the video, but I don't know if I don't even know how to do that. Maybe settings. Nope. Maybe general. No. Okay. Well, A10. So here we go. Um, Everybody knows the A10 from what they've learned from memes, YouTube videos, the occasional episode of a TV show. But if you go out on the internet and you look at an episode about the A10 of a specific TV show, and I won't say which one because I don't want to really totally dox myself. The plane in the mission in question I was there for, and it was kind of that airplane. And I kind of was the one who de-armed that airplane, which is the reason why I spent $330 on that picture, plus the framing. Well, it was $300 to frame it. The picture was like $100. And so you say like you just love how well it was what it was designed for and the job it was designed for. So close air support, when in the A10 community, we look at CAS as a huge thing. Like it's a huge motivator for us. We push it when we're training a lot. Like I used to, when I would do my what we call weapons academics classes, I would teach that strongly to the loaders. I'd be pushing the fact that A10 is huge in the CAS world, but also is precision. So you screw up loading, say, a GBU-12, which is the laser guided bomb. GBU-12 has various components to it that if the loader doesn't do it correctly, the GBU won't guide. So instead of hitting the target that the pilot intended, it'll go wildly off course. It'll fly for a very long time because it's got big wings on it, and it will crash into something that wasn't supposed to be hit. So you want to avoid that at all costs, right? You want to keep the GBU-12s and things like that. You want, when you're loading munitions, you get trained. Excuse me. You get trained to a certain extent at which you can only have so many errors, and some of them are called reliability errors. And if you have one reliability error, you fail. So there's that. What else about the A10? I know a lot about it. I worked on it for over a decade, far more than many people. Because in the Guard, we don't change airplanes. So what else? Engines, the gun. Who else is here? Somebody else has joined. We're slowly building up. I'm waiting. I'm doing a soft entry here. I'm waiting to see how many people we can get. If we get to 10 people, I'll play the video and do the video review. Why is it still in inventory versus newer planes that were supposed to replace it? So far, technically, nothing's actually been built to replace it. All right. Planes have been built with the mission set in mind. So people were like, hey, F-35 can do close air support. Literally, here's the problem. Yes, any jet with air-to-ground munitions can close air support. But no aircraft has ever been specifically, well, no aircraft currently in the U.S. Air Force inventory outside of like the AT-6 and those little novelty airplanes that they've been messing around with for a while are specifically made for close air support. So like, yeah, I can slap a Bruce 61 and a couple of small diameter bombs on a F-16, or I can take an F-35 and I can throw a bunch of Bruce 61, a bunch of small diameter bombs in the weapons bay and make that do close air support. But they're not really specifically built close air support aircraft. No, here's the other thing. Close air, the A-10 was not tried to be killed by Congress. Congress actually saved it. The person who's trying to kill, or the entity that's trying to kill the A-10 is in fact the Air Force. It's not pointy, it's not fast, it's not fancy, and it's not even actually that expensive. It's just that the airfields it takes up are, because they need more ramp space at Osan for higher level aircraft. Osan's in Korea. They want more ramp space on the Guard bases that still have A-10s, which aren't that many. They want more ramp space at places like Moody for more 5th gen and 4th gen aircraft like F-35, F-16. They've already taken the Idaho Air National Guard is going to lose their A-10s. The Indiana Air National Guard, Fort Wayne's going to lose their A-10s. Probably the last Guard base to lose the A-10s will be Maryland, or what's the other one? Arkansas. Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you for coming. There's only a couple of you guys in chat, so you can ask me anything. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna hold. I was gonna do a video review, but I want to wait for more people. If more people come, so if you want to just throw me some questions, do it. And it can be anything because I might just like make this one self-destruct at some point if I don't get enough people in here. So far, Josh Carter's been throwing A10 questions at me. Apparently, he's an A10 fan, which clearly I am too. This is, in fact, a replica of a 30mm round that comes out of an A10. Only that part comes out, honestly. This mission in particular was interesting because this thing, the actual projectile, was hurting the airplane. That's a fun story. Niger, the coup, military coup, and everything that's going on there. That I believe is so. I haven't really looked into that, and I believe that is. I need to do more research on that before I make a decision. So I will get back to you on Niger. Okay, so you're talking about Killer Chick. So I knew an officer whose name ended in Campbell, and everybody kept telling me that her husband was Kim Campbell. I don't think so. However, as an A-10 pilot, she did a great job. She got her airplane shredded by surface air missile. She was following the ROE and following the CAS doctrine, so she didn't do anything dumb to get her plane shot up. She was just doing what had to be done because the weather. The mission she was on, the weather sucked. So when the weather is bad, typically they call A-10s. That's kind of what happened here. Because the clouds come down, airplanes can't see through them, only low airplanes can go down under the clouds and do their job, and that's what she did. And she was doing it quite well. She was on her second or third rocket pass and trying to hit some guys who were kind of like really hidden, so she had to get kind of down low, and that's when she took the hit. Mind you, this was 2003. She was flying an A-10A, not an A-10C. Did not have AAR-47, which is one of our more advanced countermeasure systems on board. Didn't have a lot of things on board. No, it had AAR-47. It had the dispensers. It didn't have the ALE-47, I think it's called. Basically, she didn't have what is basically a passive launch detection system on board the airplane, which is on almost every military aircraft nowadays. It's American military aircraft and most Western airplanes. And you can see them if you look and be like, why is there this little weird lens thing on a wingtip? That's like a passive launch identification system. I won't tell you how it works, but it kind of works, and it kind of does a good job. Okay, so what's going on in Nigeria is apparently the military has arrested the president of the country. That's all I know. I don't have any more in-depth information on that front, but yeah, they have arrested the president of the country. And when you look at it in terms of if that country was like more involved in like the export of a lot. Now there is a Russian side to it. I've heard that the Russians were involved in it because the Russian military is trying to sway the Nigerian military, that there's some Russian component to it. Again, I don't want to speak specifics to it because I don't know for a fact that is actually what's happening there. I think that it's more of a there's some internal politics going on. There's a lot of things going on. The president is under house arrest, and they're looking at doing more elections and things like that. Yeah, we are or already have evacuated our embassy. So a funny thing about that is after the Benghazi incident, if you remember in the last stream I mentioned the 13-hour secret stories of Benghazi. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with that. Essentially, what happened was we had an annex. So our ambassador to Libya um, decided he was going to go on a little field trip to Benghazi, which even to this day there are currently two capitals of Libya because there are two governments to Libya. And you have Tripoli, and you have Benghazi. Well, before all this happened, there was just Tripoli was the capital, and then Benghazi was the annex. And he wanted to go over there and talk to Benghazi people. And it was his name is Chris Stevens, Ambassador Chris Stevens, and he wanted to go over there and he wanted to make friends with them and he wanted to help them out. Well, long story short, didn't work. He ends up dead, and the the annex falls. And it fell because there wasn't any kind of response forces around. Yes, totally agree, Kim. Totally agree. So the military kind of like reacted to this, and they told, all right, so they're like, okay, so how if this were to happen in the future, how do we do this? And they created some things. They created some Marine Rapid Response Forces. They created some units that could actually go in and do exfils of sensitive peoples or diplomatic missions and things like that. So we have a much more robust system now in place to help with evacuating embassies and things like that. Not that it helped in Afghanistan. So if you want on the ground info in Ukraine, so here's how you do it. You have to kind of aggregate it yourself. Okay. So first you start with the Ukrainian blogosphere and you go and you watch the Ukrainian bloggers and see what they're talking about. And that's on YouTube and other platforms. Then you go and you start looking at the maps. Like I'll show you a map that kind of helps with that. Give me a second. Oh, we learn from our mistakes, Kim. We do. It's just that our politicians aren't the ones doing the learning, and this is why it's sensitive for me to do any kind of the like political side of this because I have strong political opinions, but more strong like patriotic opinions and stuff like that. Like, and that's let's put it like this: what happened in Afghanistan was an absolute disgrace. It's an embarrassment, and we should all be very like a C-17 airlifter taking off with people getting smashed into the landing gear bay is not the Air Force that I joined. I'll just leave it at that. The world learns sometimes learns, and then other times it learns, but it learns it as a lesson of what to do as opposed not what to do. All right, so this right here, this is Ukraine.liveuamap.com. I was turned on to this by my Intel shop back when we were basically turning ISIS people into chunky salsa. We'll call it that. This is a unique piece of information. What it does is it takes social media information. So you can see they tell you what their sources are. They give you the timestamps, but they also, what they do is they geolocate what they're telling you about. So they see something happen and then they go, okay, where did it happen? Can we confirm this? Once they've confirmed it, they post it here and they post its exact location. So this is one of the ways in which you can kind of confirm things. So like you'll see like this little blue thing here. Air defense is active in Zaporizhia against drones. That was 6 hours ago. 6 hours ago, it was already dark in Ukraine, so that makes sense. Air defense was engaging air defense. So if you look along this, you can see everything from Russian forces conducting offensive actions, and so on. You can see, like, sometimes lots of postings will be all one thing, and it will be like shelling and things like that. Yeah, this map is really good, and it works across multiple conflict zones. They have other conflict zones as well. If you guys remember from the earlier stream, I was talking about like a Russian naval base. It was this one right here. This one right here. Novozhizhsky, or whatever you want to call it. It was this guy right here. That was not right there, right there. It was that base that was hit by a drone, a Ukrainian drone. Now, mind you, a small drone is not going to have SATCOM, and also keep in mind the Ukrainians don't have satellites. Yes, the Ukrainian army uses social media, and it's really impressive. Yes, but this right here, is a big map. I used to use this extensively early on, but then Deep State came online. So we'll go back to Deep State and see if there's any changes in Deep State. Wow, you guys are hitting me fast. You're helping me. You're training me. You're helping me work on my blogger skills or vlogger skills. No, there's not. These maps do cover conflict regions, but unless a conflict is occurring, they don't normally post things. So, like, I followed this map. You can see up here it has tabs, right? So it has like a little bit of stuff on the United States. It has mostly crime stuff going on in the United States. It doesn't cover like China buying crap. You have Russia, and then you have Syria. Now, here's an interesting thing. I didn't get into it. Let me go back to Ukraine. Maybe we'll see it on this map. We might have to go to. Let me go to Deep State. Let's see if it shows it on Deep State. I don't know if it does. It doesn't show it. But I'm not sure if you've heard in the news, but I got my teenage daughter out of bed this morning and we watched it live. I told her this is history in the making. Just imagine if Poland could have addressed the U.S. Congress in 1939. I know, right? And those are things where it's like, I'm happy that you showed your child something like that, because like history, it does repeat itself. It happens over and over again. We don't, and that's why I wanted to stream tonight, but no, I don't seem to have enough people on board. I'm like, my people keep dropping off. If I had more people, I would get into the video. I might do that just anyway and just make this like a video and leave it up on the channel and see what happens with it. But before I do that, you might have heard in the news recently that there's been a Belarusian helicopter invasion of Poland, and it happened right up in here. And you have a little settlement. You have to wait for it to like do its zoom in thing. There's a little settlement up in here. And this, you see this red space here? Do you guys know what that is? No, yeah, I know. When Zelensky addressed Congress, that was a huge thing. That was like very important. Like that was something important. No, so yeah, Josh, the Baltic is right here. But what is this? What is Kaliningrad? Kaliningrad is part of Russia, actually. This is a Russian territory. This Russian territory is separated I don't know why my internet's being so bad. StreamYards is really screwing up my internet. Just so let you guys know, if you keep bouncing in and out, it's probably because of my internet. Let's just say that I used to be able to. I'm going to close everything I can that I don't need, because I used to be able to do like full blown like online video games and Discord and all kinds of stuff, and not have these issues. So hopefully we're still on board. So this area right here is Leningrad. Kaliningrad. It's part of Russia, and this little gap right here is what separates it from Belarus, which is a Russian ally. This country here. And if you go down south, you have here. Yeah, there's this little chunk of Russia, and they have airfields there. And when I was up here in Estonia, which is, I don't know why the map won't populate or do its thing, but up here is Estonia. It's actually like here. This whole thing is Estonia. And then down here is Latvia. And then Lithuania is the southern one. Most of the intercepts that were being done from Amari Airfield, which is basically like right where the cursor is, were Russian jets flying around here to get down to Lithuania or to Kaliningrad to get around the NATO air patrols and get down here. And that is Russian airspace, airspace and land. But Belarus, being a Russian ally, the Wagner guys were up here doing training missions, and the and the Belarusian helicopters decided they wanted to take a little flight into Poland, and they got caught. They got caught flying around in Polish airspace. So they got really screwed up. Yeah, I'm not surprised that you haven't seen maps like that. Maps are one of the last things that you get to see, or one of the most rare things you get to see in schools these days. Like, nobody teaches geography. It's not even a course. And at least where I was teaching, geography isn't its own course. Just the two of us, just chilling. I guess the military nerd thing's not gonna be that popular. Thought it would be more popular based on all the other channels, but they always say you gotta grind it out at first. So if you read Tom Clancy, you'll know a lot about some of the systems that are actually being used in this war. Tom Clancy does a great job, but he did such a good job of investigating and doing his research that early on the CIA actually investigated him, because they're like, how does this guy know this stuff? Where did he get this information from? Turns out he got it from a local library. Yeah, I did. I put it on Nat's stream. I put it on Mike's stream. I put it on a bunch of streams, and like, I like covering that stuff. And I guess now I know Ragnar's still going. I get it. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to do. But the problem is my content's not going to be the same. I want to do some Leo stuff, like I did today, law enforcement officer Leo, and legal. I just don't want to make it exclusively that, because it's not like my area of expertise. So like, I don't have like a leg to stand on to comment on it. And my passions lie in like the history and that kind of stuff. So like, if you look at like have you guys ever watched The Fat Electrician? Yeah, that's what I hope, Kim. That's what I hope. It's weird that you guys are still both here, but like, it doesn't show it on my side. That's so weird. But like I found this great. I'll show it to you guys. It's only just us, but I'll show you the video anyway because it's good practice for me and it'll be fun for you guys. So I found this video, all right, and it's from Ukraine. It was just published today by the Daily Mail, and yeah, I love the Fat Electrician. Like if he could only be NSFW, I would have shown him in my history class, even before he got into this like long form stuff. But he's really taken off. That probably being on unsubbed and stuff like that didn't hurt. Oh, you didn't? Oh, well, thanks, Josh. I mean, I'm glad to have you here. I hope you enjoy the military history crap. And if you want to do more A10 stuff, I plan on doing an exclusive A10 thing. I'm already on YouTube doing an A10 thing with a DCS guy by the name of by Cap. This guy's name is Cap. His channel is Grim Reapers. He's a big like flight sim group, and he did a big old sit down interview with me back in the day about A10s, and we talked about a lot of stuff. So you can go look that up. Yeah, I mean that's my whole thing. I have the degree and the bills to prove it on the whole like military history thing. But I'm going to get into this video, even though it's just the three of us here. Although it shows two, I don't know. I think that's like a participants thing or something like that. So this video is really cool because what it does is it breaks down. It goes into like what's Ukraine's greatest weapon, and it's not what you think. It's not the Neptune anti-ship missiles that sunk the Moskva. It's not the HIMARS provided by America. It's not the Patriot missile defense provided by America. It's not all the tanks. It's not all the planes. It's none of that stuff. It's really, really interesting. Let me see if I can make this work. You might hear my mouse click every once in a while. It's because it's broken and it's stupid. Corsair, everybody.
100%.
That's not what I wanted you to do. Hang on. You're not seeing it move, are you? One second. I broke something. I'm smart like that. All right, so it's gonna be weird because it's doing something it's never done before for me, so I don't know exactly how to fix it. So this is how I'm gonna fix it. But in this video, you're gonna see a lot of like close quarters combat. You're gonna see something along the lines of like grenades being thrown back and forth and how crazy it is in the actual situations these guys find themselves in. And you're gonna find that this is nothing new. This is nothing new has changed since firearms became part of warfare, honestly. So now if I just do share screen and I do entire screen and I do that, now it will work. Boosh. I have two monitors. Always have two monitors. So interesting here, you see these guys are rocking like M4s, and that guy, he has a scar. So if we go back, let me go back a second. This rifle right here, no audio. That's unfortunate. All right, well, that's good because then I can mute it. I can just narrate it because I don't need the audio anyway. That's perfect. I don't care if there's no audio. If you see right here, this guy's rifle, we aren't issued that in the United States military. It's available, and they get it in special forces and things like that. But that is an actual SCAR. That is a. Yeah, I know. I know you got mine. I'm just talking about. Yeah, the SCAR is nice. It's SCAR 17. It's the 5.56 variant of the SCAR, and that's super nice. That like, and you can tell he's got 5.56 mags. And another thing is he has American patches all over his uniform, which means he either knows, he appreciates good old America helped provide the equipment that he's rocking there. But that SCAR and an ACOG, like the ACOG's over $1,000, and then he's got a SCAR, which is like $2K, and he's rocking that in the battlefields of Ukraine. Whereas the Russians are handing out, like, what do you want to call them? Like the Mosins and stuff like that to some of their guys because they're like so scrapped on when it comes to their equipment. So let's keep going and we'll let this play. Boosh. Now it kind of rewinded a bit. So you can see very close combat. You saw a guy throw a grenade into the trench. This guy's rocking an M4 with an EOTech. So the Ukrainians they're definitely being equipped. That's a NATO standard grenade. That's not a Russian grenade. I do appreciate the fact that they're allowed to have beards in Ukraine. In the American military, they said, nah, no beards for you. Back in the 80s, the Navy was allowing beards for a while. So what they're talking about here is the most effective trench weapon is in fact. Oh, so that right there. Hold on. Let's go back. So the most effective weapon in the trench is a shovel. Honestly, that's the hypersonic missile, thermobaric bombs, suicide drones, threat of use of tactical nukes. Are we sure we can't fix this audio problem? I'm not sure why the audio thing is a problem. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. There's only just a few of us. I don't want to be too like over the top on this. So, do you guys understand? Yeah, Kim, the ground forces are doing pretty good to an extent. They're running into a lot of problems. Landmines and defensive works are an issue. Yeah, it is like World War I all over again. That's exactly correct. So this reporter dude, who clearly doesn't know how to wear a helmet or even get it sized properly, is standing in. I would wager this is like a training trench. This is like where they take guys before they send them out to the field and be like, "Hey, dig a trench and show us what it looks like." No, so Russia's not stalled out the same way Germany was. If you look at the way the Germans' offensive, Operation Barbarossa, stalled out, and then subsequent offenses, the way they stalled out, it's completely different. The way Russia stalled out is a failure of logistics. There wasn't like General Winter didn't come and like crush it. He crushed their offensive. The Donbass didn't like swallow up whole divisions because of the weather. It wasn't like that. Basically, what happened was there was a huge logistics problem. And one day I'll do a Shaft of the Stream video, Shaft of the Spear video. So, like, where's my harm missile toy? So, this is a little toy. It comes from a model airplane my kid has, a little toy airplane. But it's a model of a HARM missile. A HARM missile is designed to take out SAM sites, which is weird because we some crazy how tricked Russian MiG-29 to carry this for the Ukrainians. Oh, thanks, Kim. I didn't know you did that. Tell him thanks for me. And if he could push people my way, I'd love it, because I want to, you know, who doesn't want viewers? But if you look at this thing, the warhead section of these missiles is only like that much of it. The rest of it is what's called the shaft of the spear. It's what gets the missile to its target, makes it does its thing. And the Ukrainians are the Russians are extremely lousy at that part. And that's why when they get to what they want to do, they have nothing to do it with. It's like, imagine if you went on, thanks, Kfar. It's imagine if you went on a vacation and you got there, but you had no clean clothes left, no money left, and no plan in place. Because that's what happened when the Russians hit when they got very, very close to Kiev. They were like, okay, we're here. Well, where's all of our weapons? Oh, they're all back there somewhere. Where's all of our gas? It's all back there somewhere. What do we do now? I don't know. The guy who knows that's way back there somewhere. And that's what happened to their offensive. So it's a lot different than what happened to the Germans. The Germans went into Russia and they had a really good plan. They had a really effective system in place, but what they didn't do properly was manage their time. And then they ended up in a situation in which their equipment and their tactic was outpaced by the weather and time. And that's a different scenario than what the Russians and the Ukrainians are facing. Right now, the Ukrainians are facing, with their offensive, a problem of, okay, if I put a lot of my best assets out there, which they haven't yet, what will they encounter? So they're sending their second and third best assets out there to try to find a way through, and it's not really working. So the trenches of Ukraine and the trenches of France are very, very similar, and that's kind of what I wanted to go over in this video. But I was really wishing the audio would work. I heard something about when you go full screen, the audio, it won't work. So let me try it a different way. Stop sharing. Let's go to. Oh, you're gonna have to speak a little. Let me come back to it. You're gonna have to speak a little English for this because the guy calls a shovel a spade. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is. I'm really confused as to what's going on with some of the stuff on this. It doesn't seem to be the way it's supposed to. All right, I think I got it to go now. Let's try it this way. Share screen. Okay, now let's see if this works. Tell me if you can hear this.
Percent.
You should be hearing auto cannon fire.
In a trench, the one with more grenades usually wins.
Yeah, British English.
The trench assault is, I think, the most difficult task in this war.
Awesome.
This is a real science.
That right there is pretty intense. You don't get to see that on newsreel.
The conflict in Ukraine is very much a 21st century war, with the deployment of hypersonic missiles, thermobaric bombs.
So the hypersonic missile. The Russians have said that the Ukrainians have not shot down any of their hypersonic missiles because the hypersonic missile is like this big like political thing. If you watch Habitual Line Cross or any of those guys' channels, you'll see it. It's a big thing. However, the Patriots do have the ability to engage those targets. It's just a matter of software. No hardware changes needed. So the fact that the Russians are still out there saying that their hypersonics have never been shot down, they're full of it because they get shot down a lot. And they're very, very expensive to make. It takes a lot of rocket power to get a projectile up to that speed. And if we go back, see if we can pause it in the right spot. So the airplane you see dropping that missile is a MiG-31. MiG-31 is the fastest fighter aircraft the Russians have. The reason why it was specially modified to carry that weapon. No, Josh, I mean that like you can. The hardware is capable. The system just needed to be smarter, and they made it smarter with software changes. The Russians, however, their missile can't get faster. It's only as fast as it's ever going to be. But if you look at this picture here, you'll see a MiG-31, and it's a test asset. I know this because I used to work on test asset aircraft, and its extremely long, pointy nose tells me it's got flight test instrumentation equipment attached, so it's a test asset. But only the MiG-31 can deploy this missile because the MiG-31 is capable of Mach 2 plus speed. So you have to give the missile a head start to getting to its hypersonic speed regime.
With the deployment of hypersonic missiles, thermobaric bombs, suicide drones.
So thermobarics are when like you have a bomb that releases a fuel air explosive, so it like incinerates the entire atmosphere in the entire area. And this video, this shot right here is a great example of why the first-person view or FPV drones are so insane.
And the threat of the use of tactical nuclear weapons.
But one tool remains as important as it did on the Western Front of 1916. That is the spade.
That will always be one of the greatest weapons or pieces of equipment in the military, is the shovel.
The first 48 hours of the full Russian invasion of Ukraine in February last year.
That video right there, this is Hostomel Airport, or not Hostomel Airport, but the Anatov Airport in Hostomel, Ukraine. We showed that the aftermath of that earlier today with Operator Starsky. And those are Russian VDV paratroopers conducting their initial assault, which went completely horribly.
Last year suggested there would be a swift victory for modern mobile warfare and overwhelming odds. But the Russian thrust at Kyiv was halted and ultimately defeated by a combination of intense artillery bombardments and modern...
That's not actually arty. That's actually anti-tank rockets. That's the so-called Highway of Death that happened in early 2022.
Western anti-tank weaponry, such as the Javelin. The Russians withdrew from Kyiv at the end of March, and the conflict entered a new and more static phase, one that would be very familiar to those who lived through or have studied the events of the early 20th century. Trench warfare. This had already been going on here in Donbass, hundreds of miles to the east of Kyiv, since 2014, when Russian-backed separatists declared their own breakaway republics. Today, 17 months after the full Russian invasion, the Mail Team has been given unprecedented access to trenches and other dug-in positions along the Donbass front line, from the Bakhmut sector to Liman. But why is the trench still so important in this conflict? Why does the Lopata, as the spade or shovel is called in Russian and Ukrainian, remain the soldier's best friend? The principle of trench warfare is relatively simple. A soldier wants to put as much missile-proof material between himself and the enemy guns, while still being able to.
So how play them in the lineup of tanks like that. Yeah, you're going to see, if you watch this war closely enough from the beginning to the end, whenever that comes, you're going to notice a big theme, and it's called military discipline in Russia they don't get along. Like, they don't do military discipline. They don't do convoy discipline. They don't do any kind of discipline. And highway of death. Well, so in 1991, during the first Gulf War, at a point in time, right after the Battle of 73 Easting, the Iraqi army realized that they could not protect their positions in Kuwait anymore, and they started to run away. Well, during that war, we sent a little airplane called the J-Stars to the area. It was a prototype at the time, and we sent it there because, well, this is a big war. It's our first big war in a long time. Let's send everything. So we sent this prototype airplane. What it had was a really neat radar on it that scanned the ground to see if things were moving. And we detected large columns of vehicles moving out of Iraq. It was out of Kuwait into Iraq, up their highways along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And we quickly realized, oh crap, it's the entire Iraqi army and it's leaving Kuwait. Let's get it. So they set up what were called kill boxes, and they sent in Apaches, A-10s, Navy aircraft like A-6s and F-18s, F-16s. They sent in everything, B-52s. I mean, pretty much, they just broke the highway up into segments and said, you get a sector, you get a sector, you get a sector, you get a sector. And anything in there is fair game. And in the end, what you ended up with was a highway littered on both sides, all sides, for miles, and just blown up vehicles. And it became known as the Highway of Death. And then after that situation in Ukraine, they started calling that road the Ukrainian Highway of Death. Because here they are coming down this, what in military terms is an MSR, and most of them, if not all of them, end up dead. Well, their vehicles did. Which one? The Ukrainian one, the Iraqi one, or both? You have to understand that the one in Iraq, you'd send a 4-ship of A-10s out armed with Mark 20 Rockeyes, Mavericks, full loaded gun, and they'd come back empty. So they were doing a lot of damage. And the Apache would go out with 8x Hellfire and 70, whatever 36 times 2 is in rockets, 72 rockets, and come back empty. Yeah, it was insane.
Participate in the battle. The simplest, quickest, and cheapest way to do this is to dig a hole in the ground and position yourself inside it. If you adapt that approach to the needs of a platoon, who can also stay in close contact with each other, you require something a little larger than a hole, a trench. A battalion or a division of soldiers requires a trench network. Trenches allow troops to hold ground or provide cover when assaulting an enemy, whose firepower is likely to inflict serious damage or defeat them if they remain in Such
yes
warfare
and no.
has been the subject of scientific study and improvement since the 16th century, when trenches and earthworks were built around besieged cities to provide the attackers with cover from defensive fire as they got closer to the walls. It reached its apogee during the Great War of 1914-18, when industrialized firepower in the form of the machine gun and howitzer had far outstripped any advances in the mobility or personal protection of the common soldier. After initial and very costly battles of maneuver, opposing armies were forced to dig in and face each other across no man's.
Fun fact, Josh, is that the Highway of Death and the optics of it are one of the things that led to the early end of the first Gulf War. In fact, we weren't supposed to end the war at that point, but it led to the early end of that war because the optics, and this is where like you get into social media. And I said earlier today, you wouldn't see social media have as much of an input in a war in a sense, maybe the first Gulf War, and it's because when that kind of stuff gets out there, the imagery of dozens and thousands of vehicles being destroyed, it makes it look like it's a one-sided situation in which it really actually wasn't. There, it was still like a little tenuous, and it makes for an incorrect view. Because the original commander's intent and a mission objective of Gulf War One was to destroy the Iraqi army entirely. But so they said that, and then the imagery comes out that makes it look like we did. So, and the UN never said you're allowed to eliminate Saddam Hussein or take over the country. So, George Bush and the other guys, Schwarzkopf, and all those guys were like, okay, well, we've reached commander's intent and gone beyond it at this point, we think, or at least it appears that way, because there was a lot of pushback. Like the media was like, oh my God, because what was hitting the news? Videos of thousands and thousands of POWs, videos of thousands of vehicles blown up. I mean, just Google Highway of Death and you'll see the pictures. I'm not quite good enough to like snapshot that up here that fast. But if you do that, you'll see that. And you're going to see like that. Yeah. I mean, it looks like we were just beat. Like, it's like, it looked like we were kicking a guy when he's down, kind of, is what it looked like. But for the Ukrainians, it was different because the Ukrainians were doing it on their own territory. So they were beating up a guy on their own territory who was down, which is a lot different than when you're on their territory and you're continuing to hammer them when they're on the ground. PJ O'Rourke. Yeah, I remember. I've read some of his stuff. Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude. Yeah. I was entering high school when the war was happening, yeah. And it's the thing about the whole that whole situation is that you have to take it in context, right? You have to understand that every individual airplane pilot, every individual helicopter pilot, they did not know what they were actually like, what effect they were having compared to the overall larger picture. Yes, Kim, we did. Yeah, so for Gulf War One, Gulf War One was ended basically because it was kind of like a little league game when they go, okay, mercy rule, slaughter rule kind of thing. Yeah, imagine. So, yeah, you can't compare Gulf War One Highway of Death with the Ukrainian Highway of Death. You just can't, because there's just completely different. Because you have one group of people who are. It would be like the reverse. It'd be like if the entire Second Armored Division, which was the unit that was involved in the Battle of 73 Easting in Iraq, was the one being slaughtered and not the Iraqis. And then the Iraqis put it on TV, and then the media and the world was like, hey, you need to stop. And the Iraqis stopped. No, they wouldn't stop because the Americans were still on their territory, right? You have to consider that when you're going into that. Why is my Discord all of a sudden exploding? Whatever. Yeah, so let's finish this out, and then we'll finish it out for the night.
Behind barbed wire defenses. The advent of the tank, the development of military aviation, and the success of blitzkrieg tactics in the Second World War seemed to spell the end of trench warfare. But this was not to be. The Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s ended in a stalemate of trench warfare, of bloody over-the-top
Did you know if a single cyber threat makes its way onto your network,
Oh yeah, that's another problem I have.
infantry
Don't have YouTube Premium.
Today, in Ukraine, we see something similar. The trench network of the Western Front stretched almost 500 miles from Switzerland to the sea.
So if you
In
look,
Ukraine,
there's a
the
really
trench
interesting
networks
historical
wind even further
comparison
across
there,
this
is
vast landscape.
because
It is a sign
you
of
have
battle.
this situation in which the Ukrainians and
From the
the
start, the
French
Ukrainians
are
have
mirroring
been
each
at a
other, but it's not
disadvantage in
true.
numbers of soldiers and quantity of
that's
heavy weapons.
that's really interesting. If we go back, watch the Humvee. It's an American Humvee we donated to them. It's like probably like an old Air Force Security Forces vehicle or something like that. But watch what happens to on the vehicle's passenger side.
Deadlock.
Yeah, I'm allergic to ads too, but also I don't want to spend
From
money.
the start, the Ukrainians have been at a disadvantage in
Right
numbers
there,
of soldiers
boosh.
and
That
quantity
was
of
an
heavy weapons.
anti-personnel mine. It ran over.
Their air force is also
They're
severely
everywhere.
outmatched. But the Russians do not have
B-27,
total air superiority. They have
Mi-35,
lost large numbers of attack
Mi-8,
to Ukrainian air defense. This spring,
Ka-52.
anticipating the Ukrainian summer counteroffensive, the Russians constructed vast new trench networks protected by minefields in the areas of the front line they considered vulnerable. On the other side of no man's land, the Ukrainians have also been bolstering their defenses. One of the diggers is Maxim, a 36-year-old soldier from Lviv, who has been in the Donbass front line for 5 years. He explains that these trenches were dug just behind the front line because there had been intelligence of an imminent Russian attempt to break through in this sector. He says digging in dry sand is preferable to hard ground or mud, and it is always better when you can dig away from direct fire. If the ground is too hard,
So they're
or
digging
mechanical diggers are
reinforced. They're
unavailable,
digging like
soldiers will often
reserve
first use
lines of
explosives to soften
defense.
it up, but they will always finish the job with shovels.
Or something like another situation, we must have second way. That's why we build this trench. Now there is good for us, good ground because it's a sand. It's not difficult to use scaffold. It's better for us. Trench is very important for our war. We have one way for save our lives and
So the
our
interest,
weapon
what's
and
interesting
take
here
our position
is,
only trench.
hey
We
Ali,
built it as big as
what you
possible.
see here is a
Because,
lot of what infantry life is like.
if
They
you have
just dig.
big trench,
They
you
dig,
have big
they
life.
run. It's
Do
all
you enjoy
physical
digging
work.
trenches when it's
A
30
lot of people
degrees?
think it's,
Oh.
I'm going to run around and shoot stuff.
It's hard work.
All this weapon.
Yeah, Ali B is here. The nicest, one of the nicest people on
if you will be
LED's
lower,
chat,
it's
actually.
much safety for you because all parts what fly.
I mean, you'll see me in there and I joke,
from
like, what's
poles
this nice
fly
thing
in
and
different
things like
size.
that.
But if you will be lower, it's fly under head, but not in your head. It's no matter what is the caliber or kind of weapon. It's the same principle.
Yeah, so you see,
If you love your country,
he was talking about the fact that, like, if you're lower, it doesn't matter the caliber of weapon, you're going to be okay. And that's true because explosions do this. They go this way, which is why we invented proximity fuses. So imagine this here is my, well, I need something bigger. This is my bomb. It's coming down. If I put a little radar in here and it sends energy out and the energy bounces, like radio waves bounce off the ground and hits the receiver, it detonates. And it detonates and it showers the ground with a shrapnel. That's what you have to send against trenches. If you send an impact fuse weapon, it will hit the ground, then explode, and its projectiles go this way. So if you're in a trench, you're good. Yeah, her timing is so weird. I don't know exactly how her work schedule works out, but that's like kind of crazy. But she's nice. Like, you can't fault her. Like, she's maybe too nice. I guess. I don't know. Far be it from me to like
You don't
criticize.
must die for this country. You must make that enemy guys die
Yeah,
for
unless it
his
lands in a
country,
trench,
something like
because
that.
like
You
obviously
must
if it hits
every
the trench.
time
But here's the
be
thing:
alive.
if you saw earlier,
This is Oleg.
in the video, the trenches are made in zigzags. So if you have something that's zigzagged and a bomb lands in it, the shrapnel, most of it will hit dirt. Some of it will go down the trench, but because the trench zigzags, it won't take out the entire trench. That's why you have to build your trenches in zigzags. So although you may heard the term trench line and you think it's a straight line, it's not. You don't build them like that for that exact reason. Well, there's more reasons, but that's one of them.
Who is a sergeant in the Ukrainian armed forces.
It's okay,
For the
Kim.
last 15
Not a lot of
months,
us
he's
know
been
about
fighting,
trenches.
In the Donbass front line. Much of that time, he's either been living in trenches or he has been
So
assaulting
Ali, since
Russian
you
trenches. I was interested when
you just got here, what we're learning about is how the shovel is the best weapon in 21st century warfare.
Oleg was driving the other day when he said, well, yeah, the Russians are pretty good at making trenches. They have the book, they have the manuals, the doctrine of how to make a trench.
In general, the construction of trenches is a science. A lot depends on how you build it. A correct trench should go in a zigzag pattern, observing the required distance. Even small trenches, as deep as a hand, the Russians dig them correctly. They have already learned how to do it. At the beginning of the war, they were digging just to dig, but now they're building them very properly. Proper passageways, proper foxholes.
But the daily shelling by each side of the other's trench lines is mentally wearing for those underneath it.
Yes, not everyone can stand it. When you live in a trench for a long time, you know that approximately when and what kind of shelling will occur and how to react to this or that sound. For example, a tank is the most dangerous because the sound of a shot is not heard. A shell arrives immediately. But you get used to everything.
Of course, to win the
All right, so where was the question? Somebody, Josh asked, he was like, "What? How deep do you have to dig a trench to be safe?" And essentially, the way you like, if you want to go like your full Gucci trench, what you're going to do is you're going to dig it down. And you're going to have a like a ledge, and then it's going to go down some more. And then if you really have like a lot of like really good material available, you're going to build a platform above that like deepest point so that there's a drainage system built into your trench. And then the ledge is where you can stand and still shoot out of your trench. But you're going to make it deep enough so that you can walk around normally and not be in the field of view of the enemy. Your dad was Army and Air Force, a lot of different times. Was he like active duty, one service, transition to Guard Reserve, another service? Is that how that worked out? Oh, it was Ali who asked how deep you have to do to dig safe. Yeah, you have to dig it down deep enough where they can't see you, because you want to also use. We also use the trenches as what we call lines of communication. So you have to be able to walk around and function normally in there and not expect to get popped by a sniper or lose like your head to some random shrapnel or things like that. Yeah. Oh, okay. I found something. All right. There's only a few of us here, so let me ask you this. We can finish this video out, or I can show you some HUD footage from a old A-10 close air support mission in Afghanistan. it was a missile officer. Then he went to vet school. Wow, that's crazy.
In this war, one side must leave the safety of their own defense works and attack and defeat the enemies. The soldiers tell us that the two sides have displayed very different offensive tactics.
Ну, насправді штурм.
Oh, it's only 6 minutes. We can squeeze it in. when
Trench
this is
assault
over.
is, I think, the most difficult task in this war. The positive
You'll
result
see
of
more
this
A10 stuff.
depends, in my opinion, on 2 points. The first is preparation for an assault. Before entering a trench or any position, a lot of artillery, mortars, and in some cases aviation is used. That is, the
Or
more you
armor
iron the
in this
opponent
video.
in the trench, the more you demotivate him.
Kim's over
I
here
have
being
had
info
cases when
sponge.
artillery shelling lasted 40, 50 minutes, an hour.
Ali
You
needs
simply
Charger
cannot
is
raise
also
your
being
head.
info sponge.
Many people are shell-shocked.
You guys are going to be
The
what's going to
planning
be
of
called
enemy
my
trenches is
tier
studied.
1 or
Where
P1
exactly the
in
dugout is
the
located,
radio world,
possible
P1
escape routes, etc.
listeners.
A lot depends on how the artillery works on the enemy's logistical routes to prevent them from bringing the ammunition. Sabotage groups work at command and observation points.
One
to
of the
cut off
things you guys got to watch in these videos, if you watch any stuff from the Ukraine front, look at the equipment. You look at the equipment in terms of what are the Ukrainians operating versus what are the Russians operating. If you look, I've been noticing over the last like 8 months, I've seen a massive increase in the quality of Ukrainian equipment. They've gotten better armor, better what we call load-bearing equipment, like the stuff that like you put all the pouches and stuff, you put all your stuff in. They've gotten better medevac. They've gotten better optics on their weapons, better weapons. And now in like this video, we've seen M4s, SCARs, up-modded AKs, and then some of these guys in this video, like lead back up and watch.
Sabotage
You're going to
groups
see
work.
the weapon in the lower right corner. I think it's an LPVO on top of a suppressed monolithic rail AR style platform, some kind of Western American built platform. But I don't know for sure because there's not enough of it to see. Yeah. So Josh, they are literally NATOing themselves up. What do they do if trees for posts are not available? What do you mean by that?
Command and observation points to cut off communication between enemy units. This is a real science.
Oh, let's go back. You can see right here,
Cut off communication.
right there, you can see that is definitely a suppressed AR platform of some kind. That is very high speed American equipment. Yeah, they have a lot of them are rocking suppressors because they're learning that they can't, and they're not like all out like spy suppressor type stuff. No, they're regular suppressors, and they're using them because they can operate a lot more proficiently. Yeah, you got it. And I think that Aimpoint Micro is actually his offsite. I think he has like LPVO or something along those lines as his primary, honestly. That's all trees, Kim. They just cut down stuff. That's all, what do they call that? Natural material.
Between enemy units. This is a real science. Each assault operation is
And they're also using EOTechs with magnifiers behind them, which
very
is what I
carefully
personally like.
elaborated. The battle in the trench is very tough. In a trench, the one with more grenades usually wins. But a
True.
properly constructed trench, a zigzag, reduces
Ouch.
the explosive effect of a grenade. Movement along
Like I was saying before.
the trench is often complicated by its small width. Fighters often interfere with each other.
So if you look here, our guy has there are suppressors. There is no such thing as a silencer, but yes, there are suppressors for AKs. The main problem, though, is it's not the suppressor, it's having a threaded barrel. Oh, we're going to have a special appearance. You've all met him. You know him. But no, you have to have a threaded barrel. You can't just take you can't just take any firearm and make it suppressed. You have to actually have a threaded barrel. You have to have something to attach it to. You have to make it a thing. It's not just a, you just can't randomly do it. But if you look at this, this man's AK has a ton of modifications to it. From the monolithic rail on top, the EOTech, the magnifier, which means that it co-witnesses with the EOTech. And so now he has both the hollow sight and then he has magnification behind it. Plus he has the front grip, which I'm not a fan of, but okay. And all kinds of good accoutrements on top of that system to help him out.
Care should always be taken to avoid friendly fire. There's no panic in such cases, but the adrenaline can sometimes lead to mistakes.
Well, I sent him the link. You can't make him actually
He
click
says
on
the
it.
Russians he has defended his trenches against use very different tactics.
In Bakhmut, we often cross paths with Wagner. Their tactics are completely different from ours.
Kim is a demo fan. Demo Matt is awesome. He's goofy and his intros are kind of campy, but I do love Demo Matt. Props to Demo Matt.
As I have already said, our artillery and mortars work first on the enemy trench, and then special forces and infantry go in. But the Russians sent in their infantry first like a wave of meat. I saw the weapons with which these first groups marched. They had weapons from the 1950s, covered with rust. It was very strange to watch the half shell-shocked people who came forward towards us.
So you hear what he just said. Weapons covered with rust. That's weapons from the 1950s. And we just talked about what these guys are rocking. Like the one guy has a scar. That's brand new. Well, it's not brand new. But in terms of being in military service, it's more new than what we're carrying around in military service. And yeah, I have an incredible respect for these guys. And now in this picture right here where it's frozen, if that was in black and white, think of that in black and white and think of what you would be actually seeing. What would you think when you saw that? That character is character is good. Well, no, like historically, what does that remind you of? It was black and white. France 1918, Belgium 1918. So you don't, Ali B, it's not your emotions that control the situation when you're there. So if you were trained properly, the people training you would have gotten you to a point. So have you, Ali, yes or no, have you ever seen a military training video? Any of you guys, have you ever seen a boot camp video? Not the World War II ones. I'm talking modern stuff, like shark attacks, like angry cops, like serious stuff. Like what happens on when you're in boot camp, when you're in military basic training. It's not adrenaline. So what happens is when you go into military training, what they do is they try to recreate a situation. Okay, Ali says yes. All right, great. Yeah. The reason why a drill instructor or a military instructor gets the way they do, and the reason why they make a situation the way it is not to humiliate, embarrass, damage, or affect. Caffeine hate is exactly what the military, well, caffeine hate and for some people dip is what the military runs on. But what those training scenarios and situations are designed to do is desensitize a person to a situation like what these guys are going through right now, so that they respond without thinking and they do it based on their training. Now, I don't know to what extent these Ukrainian soldiers, what kind of training they went through or how they went through it. I don't know. I don't know how well they were trained. I do know that the Ukrainians, a lot of their troops, especially the ones with the good equipment, get a lot of NATO training, but they are not treated the same as a basic trainee, but they are still given some pretty in-depth training. So my thinking is that they have a lot of really good training in terms of how to respond in a stressful scenario. I listened and read a book by some guy who inspired me so much. Let's see if I can find it. Some guy inspired you. The thing is that what they're doing and how they're reacting in this situation is amazing. But what you're seeing here with the footage, I see the Somme, the Battle of the Somme in Belgium. I see, like Josh said, I see World War I. I see things that defy like normal logic. So when you're fighting on home turf, I've never had to do that. I mean, I've had to serve on my home turf. Like I went and I supported Hurricane Katrina. We had some riots in my home state where I had to go do my guard thing for that. And the same process goes on in your head, honestly. You fall back on your training and you go, okay, I'm trained for this and let's see what happens. And you just go with it. I mean, the first time I ever saw rockets explode on my base when I was overseas, and they're like, okay, let's go into, Red Dawn, exactly. But we're talking in terms of the trained military member and not in terms of the civilians. Hey, Kfar.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, it's not as good as it was last time, but we're here. Hopefully, maybe some people will come over from Wrangler. I don't know. So I found this really cool video, and it tells us that the best weapon in the Ukrainian inventory is actually the shovel.
Yeah. It looks like a... Did you watch the... What is it? The stupid UK James Bond or the Kingsman, the second one.
Yes.
Where the guy was running Man's Land and it just happened to look exactly like this.
No, I don't think I can recall the exact reference, but yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But
I was about to say you found a video of World War I.
No, and that's what I was trying to say to him. I was like, hey, like, if you put this in black and white, right, what are you looking at? And it goes back to that theme that we were talking about earlier today. It's like, does it repeat itself?
What is it? More than 100 years
History.
later.
Right.
And we've evolved so much and created so much more technology. And then in 2023, they're like, hey, trenches were a good idea.
We've been to the moon. And if let's back this video up and you're gonna see like how crazy this really is. Let's back it up some. Also, first of all, note what this dude is rocking as his service rifle.
Okay.
He's got a Scar.
Is
It's a
that-
Scar 17 with
R?
an ACOG. This dude is rocking a Scar 17 with an ACOG and a tack light in the front lines of the Ukraine war, chilling in a trench talking to a reporter.
There's no panic in such cases, but the adrenaline can sometimes lead to mistakes.
He says the Russians he has defended his trenches against use very different tactics.
Also known as the Scar L, in case you're wondering.
In Bakhmut, we often cross paths with Wagner. Their tactics are completely different from ours. As I have already said, our artillery and mortars work first on the enemy trench, and then special forces and infantry go in. But the Russians sent in their infantry first like a wave of meat. I saw the weapons with which these...
Remember the video I showed earlier today, Operator Starsky, a year ago, more than a year ago? The Ukraine or the Russian airborne troops were calling themselves Team Meat. I'm not sure if you saw that, Kfar, but Starsky, he was filming his barracks, like the barracks on his base, after they had liberated from the Russians. And they had spray painted on the wall in English because apparently they knew cameras going to come around, right? And
You're talking about it when my phone was in my pocket, but I heard you talking about how bad it looked and everything. Wait, does he have a silencer?
all those
Okay.
Ukrainians are rocking suppressors and stuff.
Hey,
Hang on. Somebody was on Discord. So, like, no. So they said they called themselves Team Meat. They spray painted it in spray paint on the walls of the building. They were referring to themselves as Team Meat, and then here they go, and they're acting like. And then the Ukrainians are like they're some piece of meat. It's like Jesus. It's history again repeats itself. The Ukrainians think of themselves as meat, or thinks of the Russians as meat, and the Russians think of themselves as meat. Yeah, Kim just acknowledged you, suppressor, not silencer, just so you know.
first groups
so
marched.
I am
They had
of,
weapons from the 1950s.
common speech. I have reverted to common speech
Oh,
because that's
you
what the kids
have,
are doing nowadays.
yeah, that happens. So yeah, you're gonna
The
see.
Russians sent in their infantry first.
I
like
think
a
it's
wave
just a
of meat.
flash suppressor.
I saw the weapons
flash
with which these
suppressor,
first groups
honestly.
marched.
Right there. I think that's not a true suppressor, and this is like an old school M4. But that is an EOTech. Like I have that exact EOTech. Like
They're getting the goods.
the Russians are fighting dudes who are getting free $500 scopes per dude.
Yeah, and they're pulling out their AKs from days past.
Yeah, they're grandpa's Mosin versus a dude with a free M4 and a free $500 EOTech plus magnifier plus suppressor plus tack light plus full body armor.
They
It's
had
got
weapons from the 1950s,
he's rocking like
covered with rust.
3K worth of gear.
I'll try to pause it.
Groups marched.
Oh, I
Weapons from
missed
the
it.
1950s,
He's got
covered
like
with rust.
Magpul,
It was
like
very strange to watch the
CQB,
half-shell
like
shocked
sling
people who came
harness,
forward
and
towards
all
us
the different
and shot
stuff.
at us without hiding. It was disturbing to watch. There should be some instincts, some
It
thoughts
almost
about
looks like
one's
he had
own
a
safety.
bipod on it as well
There
with
were
the
none.
sling.
They were like zombies.
I don't know
and we
what that
killed them
was.
all 100%. After that, the second group followed, the third group, the fourth group. Only after we have destroyed
4 groups, 4 different infantry attacks. What the heck is that?
Like the guy said, soften up the enemy trenches with our artillery, and then we send people in. And Russia's just like, nah, we're going to make their ammo on killing us, and then we'll just keep going. Once they run out, then we'll get them then.
Again,
Like you said,
history
when
repeats
the other
itself.
people, yeah, you said in the last stream, in oh my lord, I'm gonna butcher it. Started with an M. They only gave ammo. I feel like that's Russia's strategy.
Mariupol, was that what you said?
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
is the strategy, let's make them unalive all of us to the point where they have nothing left and then they'll surrender? It's like, if they're going to do that, they're going to end up having to conscript everyone in Russia, because we'll just be like, oh, Russia's just going to send wave after wave after wave. Yeah, here's more ammo. Good luck. Happy hunting.
Right, and they've already tried that. Like you said, wave after wave after wave. Here's more ammo. Good luck. Well, we're running low on the 545 ammo, so we're now equipping them with 556 weapons to give them 556 ammo. So it's like
We're running out of the
you're
ammo.
not
So here's weapons and ammo.
right. You're not gonna get by this, guys. Like, you're not
The
gonna
ATF put this weapon on from Georgia. Yeah, it's in Ukraine now.
Yeah. So let's see what we got here. Navy Texas Ranch is here. Thank you very much for coming. I love that $3,000 is doing real work in Ukraine and not sitting in a closet in USA. Yeah, I mean, like, we are dumping kinds of lots of small arms on them at like by the thousands of the pop, right? Like, we're like really like just like, hey, here's a case of Special Forces quality rifles. Here's some GPS guided. So like the Excalibur rounds that we're sending them, those things are not cheap.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much you guys know about Excalibur, but it's a GPS aided inertially guided artillery shell, which is kind of dope. Plus HIMARS, plus now we are going to give them ATACMS, although those are only going to be the submunition variants, but still, that's a pretty long-range weapon. You can hit a lot of stuff with that. All right, let's finish this video out a little bit, and then I want to do a 6-minute 8:10 video, and that's going to be the end of it for me.
These waves, did they use artillery on us?
One weapon that the soldiers of the Somme did not have to contend with.
He's running back
It
from
makes life in
Walmart
the
right
21st
now.
century trench more dangerous is the dread.
Yeah, and he in the guy even's like, hey, one weapon the soldiers of the Somme didn't have to contend with is the drone. So you have not only a reference to the trench warfare, but yeah, the dude's rocking a $400 Walmart drone, and it's dominating the
He
battlefield.
went to somebody's house and grabbed this. The military didn't issue
like,
it. He went to Steve's house, and Steve's like, here's this drone, dude.
Yeah, a kid hit him up on Facebook and was like, hey, I got this drone. You need it? He's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, can you just send me the video? I want to post it on YouTube later.
Right. And that's what's happening in
These
Ukraine.
machines,
I mean, it's
often
insane.
armed with grenades or mortar bombs, are able to loiter over an enemy's trench, from where their operator can identify individual soldiers as targets, or call in pinpoint artillery fire. Sergeant Lahija says that this drone threat is psychologically very stressful.
Oh, it's gotta be. Okay, personal story. I was trying to sleep in a tent in Afghanistan. That day, we had over 10 rocket attacks on the base, like indirect fire rocket attacks. So like, it's not like Ukraine where like there's an entire battery of rockets just lobbing rockets at us. It was like one here, one there over the course of the day. And I'm sitting there in this tent looking up at the tent ceiling going like, well, you're not going to protect me from a rocket.
Not at all.
You're just not. No. You're not going to protect me from a rocket that comes through the tent, lands around the tent. Nobody thought to build revetments, meaning like built up fortifications around the tents. Yes, Ali and Kim, the Afghan situation, for me personally, I might have to do a whole thing on that because I think for every single veteran in this country, yeah, we have a problem with that. Let's just say that. I'm going to leave it at that for now because I don't know how I want to phrase it, how I want to structure that. All I'm going to say is that I have a problem. But when I was there and I had this threat of what we call IDF, indirect fire, meaning nobody's actually shooting at you specifically. It's not like they see you and they want to shoot you. It's just indirect. They're just going to lob something over and see where it hits. We call it the military, we call it the golden BB, right? All right, I'll put this up. I wasn't angry when I left Afghanistan. The last time I left Afghanistan was in 2019, and I felt pretty good. We had the situation under control. Our munition expenditures went way down. Security was doing real well, and things were on the upswing. It was only after that the things started to go downhill, and then when the withdrawal happened. Ooh. Let's put it this way. I've been on Bagram Airfield. The evacuation should have happened from Bagram. You're safer on Bagram than you are in your own home. The place was a fortress. But I don't want to go down that road right now. God
I was
damn
going
it,
to make
so
I was going to make it auditor related because you know what Jeremiah Payne did, right? All those service members at the end that passed, he tried to make shirts and have people pay for their image so that he could profit off of it.
Of the 13 that were killed in Kabul?
And only after we called him out for it did he say, oh, well, now I'm going to send it to whatever place he was going to send it. And it's like,
He
no,
doesn't
but
have
you're
the
still gonna
rights
profit
to their
from it.
like. He doesn't have the rights to their like. Okay, that's officially a punchable offense. I know I made a rule that I don't want to call out any specific person for any specific reason, but if you do that to 13 fallen service members, you are a punchable offense. Where the hell was I?
And then he took
before?
it down after that.
Where the hell was I before all that?
How we should have evacuated airbase, I believe, leaving in 2019.
No, okay. So, indirect fire. So he's talking about the psychological effect of the drones. The drone psychological effect is gigantic because
you never know when there's a Walmart drone over you waiting to drop a grenade.
Right. All they have to do is be like 400 foot up, and you can't hear them.
Yeah.
And they can see you very well from 400 feet. And they're going to drop a grenade on you, and you have no idea. And if you look at the way the Russians, if you look at recent videos, you won't see Ukrainians dropping grenades on like dudes running around out in the field. Normally they're dropping them in holes or into the hatches of vehicles and stuff like that because the Russians are learning, I can't just run around. I'll get hit with a grenade from out of nowhere because they just don't know. The human eye just can't perceive that vehicle is only like this big. I mean, you saw it in that guy's hand. Like it's only that big. If you put something that big up in the air, they can't see it. You can't see it from the ground, and it's terrifying. I would be terrified if I had.
You never know when you and your boy are going to be sleeping, and they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, there's two dudes right here. We should spark off some artillery right now." And then you wake up in heaven, and you're like, "What just happened?"
There is a line of people in heaven right now who are all very confused.
Oh yeah, well, those people probably aren't in heaven. Let's be honest; they're probably very warm, also wondering what happened.
They're orcs. So, but like look at the video I posted, or not the video, but the images I posted on Discord the other day. It was like, if you do this, hold formation on a beach out in the open, and then a drone.
When you told me about it, I couldn't believe it.
And then this guy gets told, the HIMARS, which is the basically HIMARS is like long range GPS guided or GPS aided inertially guided rockets. So think of like artillery with a super brain and a whole lot of go get there, like a whole lot of range.
Yeah.
And next thing you know,
It's all,
you
it's
dead.
like that. So in my head, Russia has to have some sort of intelligence. Says, hey, this weapon can shoot this far. Hey,
They
Ukraine
know all of
has
that.
some drones. That's what I'm saying. Like, do they just their troops or like?
K-Bar goes back to what we saw earlier with your stream, or what you were saying in terms of YT won't let you talk. I'm not stopping you. Nobody here is stopping you. It goes back to what you're saying about like their military discipline, right? If you guys aren't being able to talk, it's probably my side of the thing, because tonight, of course, because I decided to start doing stream, my internet decided it wanted to be complete crap. And maybe because we had thunderstorms where I live, and maybe not, because I do know that all of my internet lines are terrestrial. They're under the ground. So that means that if it does rain,
Oh, you're fancy.
I get water intrusion into a lot of infrastructure, let's say, sometimes. But no, yeah, like what you were saying before, it's like if you can't be bothered to put a little fence up, like a simple net, it's not even a fence, it's actually just a metal mesh net. If you can't be bothered to put that up to protect multi-billions of dollars or rubles of your own crap, how is it that you're going to effectively defend a small infantry formation of, I don't know, 200 plus guys?
Yeah. Like I know they're probably all just like hoping they don't get fired or disappeared. Isn't there that one person who looks and goes, hey man, that's probably not the best idea?
You know that
it seems like they don't have that guy.
That did make a big stink, right? That made a big stink. The Ukraine or the Russian military blogosphere, they have one. It brought it up. Like, it became a big thing for them. Like, why are we not aware of this? Why are we not protecting against this? Why are we not trying to defend this stuff?
If KFAR goes to Russia, KFAR as a free should not be like, hey, why aren't you guys doing this? Why aren't you guys doing this? Hey, you guys should probably be doing this. Me as a E4 that went on 2 deployments should not be the smartest person in the Russian Navy.
And there's the other thing. It's like, we need to talk about this tomorrow night. We're still doing that stream on tomorrow night, right?
Yes. Wrangler actually said we're going to stream at 7. So
We
if you
are,
want to
or
do
he
it
is?
he is. So if you want to go at like 9,
Yeah, 9's fine. I
Should
think
be
we
good to
should
go.
do. I have a video of a drone trying to save a Ukrainian soldier. It's the first drone CSAR I've ever seen. Like, it's literally, instead of dropping bombs on a guy, it's dropping water and medicine on a guy.
it sounds weird, but it's like Call of Duty 5 years ago was like, hey, this would be funny. Hey, this would be funny. And now
It's a supply drop.
country's like, hey, this is a good idea. Yeah.
It's a
That's
supply drop.
exactly what
It's
it
a
is.
supply drop. So we have video game in
And
real
for-
life, like,
Like the United States is trying to get all this crazy stuff going, and nobody thought, hey, we should just buy some drones and we can like drop stuff on people.
right. I mean, so let's just say that there may have been a situation in which somebody in a certain office somewhere in the American military is like, hey, we can develop this crazy like GPS. We can take like a JDAM tail kit and attach it to like a little pod. So we have the tail kit of a GPS guided bomb, attach it to a pod, and we can send stuff to people.
Yeah.
It'll cost like $100,000, and it's a one-shot
Kim
deal. You don't
Crawford.
get it back.
Kim Crawford. Cool,
Yeah.
like an Avery. Like, yes, that's exactly what
Yes,
it is.
it's exactly Battlefield Amazon. Like they were dropping him notes and water bottles and medical supplies and everything. Like he was too hurt to move, so they gave him painkillers and medicine and stuff. And now he's back home.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
then
Thank you very
Russia-
much for coming. We're almost done here.
Ryan did that for one guy. And Russia's not
Well-
even willing to throw some artillery down before they rush a trench.
Here's the best part in the video. It's a tale of two stories. In the video, the one part is the Ukrainian whose its own drone saves him. And the other part is a Russian officer who, when his trench gets stormed, he gets left behind because he's wounded. And they're like, screw you, we're out. And then the Ukrainians save his life.
Yeah.
They even offered, he even said, you can't take me prisoner. They're going to kill my family and stuff like that. I have to die on the battlefield. I'm like, okay, cool. Here, shoot yourself. Like they were even like giving him that warrior's death that he wanted. He's like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. They're like, okay, fine. We'll protect you.
What
We'll
do
take care
you
of
want?
They were like, okay, like,
We
what
will
do
give you
need?
whatever you want. Just pick something.
And that was the most interesting part about that whole thing. The rest of this video talks about like the trench works, and you can see like, let's go to like, that's it. Ooh. That, you know what that is?
It looks like a 2-barreled machine gun of some type that
That's a
they may or
Zeus.
may not have.
That's a Russian. That's a Zeus. That's a 23 millimeter ZSU. That's an anti-aircraft gun being used in the not airplane
Anti-personnel. The
Yeah.
heavy anti-personnel mode.
mode. The anti-everything else mode.
Yeah.
But if you look like this, oh come on, this.
It almost looks like those videos on YouTube of like
They know all too
the
well
people
the perils
building
of
the
Russian
houses in the
artillery fire.
woods
Yeah.
of like mud and trees. That's what it looks like.
A welder in civilian life suffered ligament damage when he tripped in a trench while under artillery fire. His comrade, 37-year-old Alexander,
Look at this. That right there, that's some like primo like defensive real estate right there.
Yeah.
Like they know what they're doing. They're building shoring, they've got roof supports. They're doing some, and even this guy, he's Ukrainian artillery defenseman. He still has full Kevlar, full combat loaded equipment, full uniform. He's not rocking the boots he brought from home or the t-shirt he brought from home, because that's what the Russians are doing. They're rocking the stuff they brought from home. So I want to preview this with you, KFAR. We can bring it up tomorrow night if you want. Whoever's still left in the stream, you guys might enjoy this, and we're going to go over it more in depth. Some of you may have seen this, KFAR. You may have seen this. Let me share it. So I got to stop this one. This is something that is not Ukraine war related, but I think it would be a really cool thing to do on your channel. Okay. You just got to not have my stupid broken ass mouse affect what I'm trying to do. All right. So to frame this, we are early days of the Afghan conflict. We have an early A-10. What you're seeing off of this or from this video is what we call the HUD cam. There's literally like a little camera on the top of the dashboard of the A-10, and it's filming this through the HUD, the heads-up display of the airplane. So this is not coming off of like any kind of computer system or a multifunction display. This is literally being filmed through the heads-up display of the airplane. For reference, what you see, because I know probably none of the people in this chat, which are not very many, understand what they're seeing. What you're seeing here is airspeed on the left right here on the right, altitude. So he's at 5,560 feet. That, I think, because I don't see an R here, I think is his what we call barometric altitude reading. It's not a radar altimeter reading. You can't get a radar altitude reading at 5,000 feet anyway. So he's 5,000 feet up based on air pressure. You can't, that doesn't necessarily mean he's 5,000 feet above the ground in general. You can't know that. He's going 322 knots, which for an A10 is actually kind of fast. This is what we call the pitch ladder. These dotted lines, if they're dotted like this, that means he's actually nosing over. And by the looks of things, he's probably about 3 degrees nose down, because I see 0.5 here, and that the VBI, the vertical velocity indicator, means that he's not that low. This box is what's important. That is something of reference. That's something along the lines of either his target, because this is A10A, and A10A HUD reference data, they changed some things versus A10C, so I'm not exactly sure if that's his target or if that is a waypoint or a mark point. I think it's a mark point, but you can make a mark point anything, so it doesn't mean it's friendly or foe or anything like that. Down
It's
here,
just a spot.
yeah, it's just a spot that he marked for some reason. Then you have some other reference data. This B means he is on barometric altimeter. And then here you have a time, and that's probably his flight time, actually. So he's probably been airborne for over 6 hours. And then you see this. This is slant range from that. And that is what the airplane is estimating that thing's altitude to be, which is 4,260 feet above the ground. So above sea level. So yeah, he's probably only a little over 1,000 feet above the target. That number here shows that he's 38 seconds from overflying the target. Yeah, minus 3 degrees. That's his nose down pitch right there, which explains the high airspeed. 24/FRND. That I don't think exists in A10C HUD nomenclature, so I'm not exactly sure what these two numbers mean, because there was the old what we called LAST-D and not LAST-D, IFC and the new IFC software. This is his bearing, so it means like his compass heading. So like right now you're seeing like that's 350, so he's basically pointing south. Like he's just a little off of due south. And so let's see what happens here. All right.
Copy, Hog 01.
He's put the VBI very close to the mark point, so I'm thinking he might want to think that's his target. No, I think that's friendlies. Nowadays, we have a different system where we can put like the friendlies show up on our data link, and they can put like a ring around them to like their range of protection. We call it a frag ring. I think the mark point's the friendlies.
Night Owl, Hog 01 has the white smoke in sight. Low pass, shore force confirmed that that's the enemy.
Enemy, put guns on that target, damn it.
Okay, so he just did a pass and came off target. What he actually did there was what is called a show of force. I think we might be alone in here. If anybody's here still, let me know.
I mean, I'm in chat on YouTube, so one of those two is me.
Yeah. Although I've been having problems all night where more people have been in chat than shows.
Okay. So in my head, what he just did was he just flew over whoever he was about to shoot at and said, hey, you should probably stop.
He did that, but he also was trying, because if you can see from the video how hard it is to figure out, like, okay, what am I going to put a shit ton of these down on, right?
Yeah.
Because he's setting up for a gun run. His altitude suggests nothing else. He cannot use, actually, he can't use anything but rockets or gun at that altitude. Unless he's carrying free fall bombs that are delayed. 1 and 2. Okay, so there's two people
So it's
here.
wrong again.
I know.
Weird.
He can't do anything but drop either if he's got like parachute bombs, we call it BSU 49s, or I hate the word, but retarded free fall is literally their military nomenclature. At that altitude, he can't do anything. Because if you notice, he came down to 4,800 feet over a target that's at 4,300 feet. He can't really do much with that. So what does he do? He does an overfly or a so-called show of force to not only give the bad guys on the ground a little show of good old-fashioned American firepower, like, hey, the hate is coming. Do you want some of this smoke? But the second thing is for the guys on the ground, because you notice he said, is my attack heading on target? Kim and Al are still here. They're going to be my P1 listeners, my P1 viewers in radio terms. But they're also saying, like, hey, am I on target? Like, did I just fly over that target? Because he's got an idea where he just was, right? And we'll see what happens. But this is pretty intense because Special Forces, the guys that need his help, they're in real trouble.
Hog 01, copies, repositioning. Understand anything in that building is a target. Say
Just got your visual. I'm your right wing passing right now. I don't have the smoke.
Copy that.
So you hear 2. If you're ever listening to these kind of communications, you're going to hear 1 and 2. 2 is always the wingman. 1 is the lead ship. We're watching the lead ship right now. And I think he said his call sign was Hog 01. Funny thing is when they put Hog on the flying schedule, it's always like HAWG. Not like HOG, but HAWG. They do it like differently. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's always been the thing.
Cover.
Wizard, ISAF 7 was 185, even 91, Charlie, Quebec. Transition to...
So you see a bunch of different symbols appear there on the HUD. He's transitioning. He's using his HOTAS. He's using... I have to go get it. He's actually using this button right here to cycle through various gun sight options to get the best gun sight option for what he's about to go do.
85, Charlie. Hog 01, put guns on that building with smoke. All friendlies are to the north. Copy.
Hog 01, copies all. Hog 01.
Thanks,
Is
Ken.
friendly
Please do.
in sight,
Please do.
building in sight, south to north, run in hot.
So he's basically going through abbreviated 9-line. He's saying south to north. That's his attack vector. So he's going to come in from the south, exit to the north. He's got the building in sight. He's got the smoke in sight. And now you can see a lot of different stuff on the symbology because he's gone master arm. He selected gun. And you can see HE right there, 1150. So we're talking about a topped off jet, full load of ammo. And he's going in and he's got a CCIP gun reticle, which is constantly calculated impact point. And you're going to see how that works. Now he's going to roll in hot. Now he's going on target.
Hog 01 is in hot.
Right here, that's the slant range. That's how close he is this way. Okay, so he's coming down like this. Airplanes don't measure things along the ground. We call that the ground range. He's up here, and he's coming in like that. And then this is his sight reticle. That's his vertical velocity indicator. You can see that some things don't like co-witness very well. There's the friendlies. They're not far away. What else we got? He's still on the same heading. So he basically flew all the way around and come back in again. And that's what's called the CAS wheel. So he flew all the way around. He's going to come back in from the same vector again. And we'll see what happens.
Clear, you're cleared high, go high.
That's the gun firing. And he was barely within range. So I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there because I want to leave some for KFAR and I stream tomorrow night. You want to go into this tomorrow night?
Yeah, we can do
also unmute your mic. Yeah, because this is a good one. It's an old school one. It's old, but it's really good because it gets pretty spicy for the guys on the ground. And like they're already outside of the normal CAS 9-line rules, and then they get more outside. It gets to the point like just shoot, like kind of like I don't care what you do, just don't kill me kind of situation.
Yeah.
This
can't shoot everywhere else.
Yeah. You already see like now if you look at the rounds counter, it's down to 930. So he had 1150.
Yeah.
In one pass, he's fired off over 200 rounds. Yeah, Ali B is like, oh my God, cliffhanger. Well, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow night for another installment of what does the A10 do? But if you're talking HEI, so imagine this thing.
Yeah.
Being a highly explosive fragmentation grenade.
Yeah.
But instead of one of them,
it's going to make you shoot yourself.
You're going to have to redraw the map if we shoot it enough times. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to add a valley where there was a hill. Like, we're going to blast stuff up. His channel is KFAR. Just Google KFAR and you'll get him. And I think for those of you guys who like him and Ali, he's a LTM guy, so or Law Talk with Mike guy. So you might like his stuff. He does a lot of like the Sob sits and the frauditors and stuff like that. And his KFAR Cams channel is really great. I love the stuff he puts on there. I definitely didn't feed him anything recently. Not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
No. Definitely not any Florida people. Not any Florida people. Did you ever make the video? Did you make the video on the guy who got punched in the face? Where the cops were punching him?
No.
So that's a great video. You got it. Maybe we do something weird on Saturday. We do like a little Leo and a little Mill, because we should do that video as like a live stream. Remember the guy who like they tased him like 600 times. He wouldn't get out of his car. He was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?"
No, that's the next video I'm going to do on my channel, but I haven't put anything out in like 3 days.
I know you've been busy. You have a house and all. Oh, you just got a sub. All of your channels got a sub. From multiple people.
I talk about, I try to talk about the prisons type stuff during my live streams.
Can we do that, guys, alive?
I'll have to watch it again. I don't see why not. Should be good.
It's so weird because I don't like. There's a lot of use of force policy stuff in that's like weird. Because I know that you can as a Leo punch if you have to, if there's no other option, but you're not supposed to.
It's one of those weird things because like punches, kinda, but if you were to like this instead of this, it's more okay because we've had to do this a lot. Also, like throwing hardcore knees.
Like a hammer fist, certain particular techniques versus other.
Yeah, exactly. It literally just depends on how you threw it, what angle you threw it at.
Ooh, maybe we can do bill it as close air support versus close combat. or
Like I
whatever.
said,
I don't know.
I'll have to give it a title. I'll have to give it the title, and then I have to make a thumbnail and get it out at a decent time. Last time I think I got it out at like.
So you want to stream? Wrangler said he was streaming at what time?
He said right at the end went off. He said like 7. He said like an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Okay, we'll stream at
so that
9.
puts us
We'll
right
do
at
9
9.
o'clock. We'll do 9 o'clock. We're gonna do. Let's just throw it out there as a mixed bag of things. Maybe some Leo, maybe some Kaz, maybe some A10, maybe some Ukraine. Like you said, military madness, right?
Yeah.
I got some other military madness stuff that's pretty interesting too. But I want to break it down. I want to do stuff like that. Thank you all, Ali B and Kim Crawford, for being here, and Josh, who was here earlier, and all the guys who came out to support me. Several of you, like one hand's worth of you. But hey, I appreciate it. I love it. And if you know anybody who's interested in stuff like this, who breakdowns like this, and again, nothing I'm doing is classified. I won't do anything classified. I know better. Frankly, some of this stuff is pretty old school, actually. But thank you guys for coming out. KFAR, as always, thank you for supporting me.
No
And
problem, bud.
everybody, have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye.